I think it's just a fascinating week so far. I think obviously the course is kind of front and center.
Really is.
Way more difficult than everybody thought it was going to be.
Correct.
Hand up. I predicted 10 to 14 on Tuesday night under to win. Still got a shot at that, but it's definitely skewed on the harder side of what everybody predicted. And I think you look at it, and what's happening is that there's real punishment for the PGA Tour Bible gospel, which has become aim away from the flag, hit it to the middle of the green, and you'll be fine. You're going to cash in putts left and right if you just hit it to the middle of the green. This is the gospel of how to play golf in the modern era. And Aronimink is proving if you hit it in the middle of the green, you might three putt a decent amount. And that seems to be bothering people.
Or if you miss your spot to the middle of the green slightly, that the penalty may be severe. You may be running off yonder.
And I think people are always listen, the leaderboard is bunched as crap. Obviously,
very condensed.
Run through it. Alex Smalley and Matt McNeely, scintillating Saturday final pairing that everybody was hoping for. They lead the way at 4 under par. But then you've got effectively, 28 guys that are even or better. So 28 players within 4 shots. And if you go a little bit further, if you wanted to say stretch of imagination, I'd say that, if you're +2 or better, you have a chance. You're going to have to play outstanding golf all weekend, but you have a chance. You're within 6 of the lead. You got 58 players within 6 shots of the lead. And there's a lot of ways you could talk about, how do we get here? How do we get to a place and it's a great question. Who's playing the best right now? And I don't really know. But I think the setup is going to, I think the weekend is going to yield lower scores. It's going to get hot. The ball's going to go further and the wind's going to die down. It's been cold and windy. And I think what you're seeing is people you play major championship golf, your job is to build the house. And a lot of people are playing in a way to lay down that foundation, not screw it up, and get to the weekend with a shot. And now we got, 40 some people with a shot, 44 people, one plus one or better, who I would say enter the weekend with a real shot. And we'll see if somebody kind of deviates or just plays off the charts and separates.
So I think that the critique is that it's been set up too hard in a way that has produced boring golf. I have not personally found it boring. I know there's some underlying data that Joseph was, we talked about midday, where it's maybe not skill as defined by data, to be clear, as defined by the model, the data modeling, is maybe not being rewarded or maybe not being discerned in a way that's remarkably different from a regular PGA Tour event. What I have found refreshing, and I watched, I think it was Xander on Monday. He's like, we haven't seen greens like this. We just never do. We never do. And so you already know you're in for something a little different. And so I guess if you're upset that the pins have made it to hit it to the middle, then try to 2-putt, watch Craig Ranch next week, or ask Gary Young and everybody to come in and set it up for the weekend. Do that. You can do that. But variety is the spice of life. And what we have right now is something we just don't get that often. And, I think the judgment that, people like Potgieter and Minwoo Lee would suggest you can kind of drive it all over the place and get away with it. You're seeing.
Oh, that's disrespectful to Potty. He almost had a clean toilet at the end of the round.
So it's not pure tee to green. I just think it's okay to have some variety where a PGA, would you say PGA at Valhalla better rewarded the best tee to green guy? It might have, based on the data sets.
But You got to remember, everybody operates like a model as gospel, and the people that write this model will be the first to admit, like, it is our like, we put a lot of interpretation into a model.
So like, hand up, I like took in the sort of the insight of a lot of players and coaches and things like that who said they were thought that you would just tear it up, right? And we didn't anticipate it being this hard. And but I also, like, we were pretty clear, like, there's a lot of mystery. Like, it could be challenging, even if there are a lot of more wedges and shorter irons into greens. I don't think what I anticipated was the first 2 days, the setup being this challenging. Usually you get progressively harder, or you just have to take into the consideration that you have 156 players to get through. But Kerry Haig just went right to the immediately to the woodshed with pins on Thursday, pins today. I don't think I've heard players say they're like unfair or outrageous, or they've said they're pretty much the hardest they've ever had. But again, that's against the baseline of this sort of modern tour and, quite frankly, more benign U.S. Open era. And so nobody's saying it's goofy golf, though.
This is just, frankly, something they don't see on tour. Tom Doak built a golf course at Memorial Park, and he had to, when you build a golf course like for a tour event, you have to work with their design team. The tour design team said that they needed to have pretty big areas with no greater than 1.75% slope in those areas. So this is what the tour is saying they want for setup. They want big areas with very little slope. And that's your kind of like their dream setup scenario, week in, week out. Aronimink is the complete opposite. It is large swaths of the green with unpinnable slope because it's so severe. And then these little pockets where you can place flags all over the place. And the difference is like on tour, week in, week out, and I saw the Jamie Kennedy compared 3-putts to Augusta National. And I would say Augusta National is not like your tour setup week in, week out, but it's easier to visualize. If you hit the ball within that kind of relatively small pocket at Augusta National, you are rewarded with a very good look at birdie. If you miss it, it's a hard 2-putt. The difference between Augusta National and Aronimink is that those little pockets, in my opinion, are shrunk down. And with the way the PGA kind of came out with the daggers out, we haven't seen it in some of their bigger pockets. It's been in the smallest pockets. And that's why you're seeing all these 3-putts, is because of the insane slope where you would where at most golf courses a really good shot would be. So the big thing here is, like, I think in general, I would say modern golf architecture has and setup has always kind of undervalued just what big tilt does in greens. When a green is just set with this, and you build from that, and you create from that. And I think that's the story of this week, is that when you're on the wrong side of gravity and it's firm and fast, you're in a bad spot, brother.
And so you think the scores might get a little easier on the weekend because it's going to get hot?
I think it'll be less windy.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Like, obviously, when we're talking Tuesday, there was this notion Wednesday walking around, though, and it was so windy. Like, why are guys even practicing? This isn't what they're going to face. This is just pointless, because it was just constant. It wasn't even gusting. It was just constant, like 25, 30. Like, why even practice in this? Then it turns out that is a lot of the first 2 rounds. I don't think people anticipated that wind, and it made it really challenging. So that will lie down. It seems like we didn't expect it, though. But it does seem like that's supposed to lie down. Have they used all the hard pins already? Probably not. There's enough. There's plenty of them to go around.
A lot of tough pins on those greens.
So I think they just keep it going. This is my thing. Like, would this be good every week? No. If it's just like, this test would not be, variety is what we're looking for here. And if you want the PGA to be the same every year, like it has to be the guy who strokes gained, he has to be top 5 strokes gained tee to green, then that's stupid. Just hold the PGA in the SoFi Dome under the same conditions every year and just read the data sheet when it's over. Don't even watch, just read the leaderboard when it's over.
The other thing that could never happen is they have to be within X shots of the lead, or else they should just quit and stop playing. These are all the rules of data, and we must abide by them. Maybe we got the fair police out there for course setup. I liked Will Knights had a comment in our Slack that you dropped in a question that Scott somebody asked Scotty about, did you have anything unfair happen to you? Will Knight said that's like just sticking the speedometer or the radar gun right in his face, trying to catch him speeding.
Let me read that. Did anything unfair happen to you out there? You know what? Like, Andy, I think we're over-indexing on the Pinehurst stuff from 2 years ago. I think Scotty, maybe, I know we've gone too far. He's the sheriff now. We can't go back. Did anything unfair happen to you out there? Scheffler. I mean, not unfair. I mean, I think the only time in our game where it's unfair is like if you get wind starting to blow the ball off the greens. I just feel like he's cast a wider net on what unfair is before, though, right? I mean,
Tough Town.
Yeah, Tough Town, mud balls. He's I don't think it's been just when the wind's blowing the ball off the green, but I digress. This is his answer now. I hadn't seen that yet. It looks like I haven't seen that yet this week. It looks like the wind's going to die down as the week goes on. I don't think we'll see that this week. It's funny sometimes. I feel like the thing in our game right now, which I do enjoy, I love hard tested golf, but it's also the hardest game in the world, and we're trying to make it harder. And there's different ways you can do that. You can do that on a golf course like this. I truly believe they can have the winning score be whatever they want it to be. It could be over par if they want it to be, just based purely upon pin locations. Is that the best test? Who knows? It's a different test. So speaking to this variety point.
That's a great take right there. Different test.
It's a different test. I think that's what's great about our game is very rarely do we play the same golf course. And even when you do it at a place like Augusta, it's different each and every year. So conditions are always changing. The golf course is always changing. I think it's the hardest game in the world and still just trying to solve a bit of a puzzle. Really a great answer from the sheriff. I wonder if he's, is he trying to turn in his badge here? It's a really interesting perspective about it's the best. I don't know. It's different. And that's what's great is how it can change from year to year, week to week.
He just wants to move into different he wants to move into the DA's office.